The last class, we were discussing the place of articulation. Before that, we want to say that this is the class of phonetics and phonology, ENG 36, phonetics and phonology. And last class, we were in the place of articulation, but before going to the manner of articulation, let's have some recap. So far we have done so many things like phonetics, phonology, what are the articulators, difference between phonetics and phonology, and how sounds are produced, and what are the places, that means from where the sounds are produced. And can you remember the place of articulation comes from the speech organs, right? And speech organs are also called articulators. Yes, right, you are right, articulators. Articulators means the organs of speech. So we are using different organs to produce the speech sounds, right? So places of articulation were this: bilabial, labiodental, interdental, or dental, palatal, velar, glottal. But before that, I just go back for your convenience. You can remember this chart that this column was for place of articulation, and we have covered with the examples. Now today we are going to see what are the manner of articulation. So I want to tell you that there are two things very important related to this place of articulation and manner of articulation. Just to remind you, place of articulation is related to from where, which organs are related to producing the sound, specific sounds. So if we identify the organs or organ, and accordingly we give some name to the sounds which are coming from that particular organs. So this is called place of articulation. But manner of articulation is how the sound is produced. What are the features? What are the functions? And what happens to the articulators while producing that particular sounds? If we talk about this, how they are produced, what happens to the organ or organs, then this is related to the manner of articulation. So today we are going to discuss the manner of articulation. Let's see. Okay, this is manner of articulation. So what is manner of articulation? Don't forget the place of articulation, then you can relate the place with the manner. So manner of articulation is how of making sounds, the how thing, the how matter, not the where matter. The where matter is related to the place of articulation. You are right. And the how matter is related to the manner of articulation. So this is very interrelated but still different. Manner of articulation is the how of making sounds. We are making sounds, but how? When learning our first language, we don't usually think about how we make sounds, right? Exactly. This is different about our mother language. First language means mother language. L1, we can also say L1, our mother language or our first language. That means we are not that much conscious. We are subconsciously learning our mother language. This is very important to understand the conscious process and the subconscious process. This is from a theory of Stephen Krashen that we have whenever we are learning the L1 that means mother language, we are not conscious. That doesn't mean that we are unconscious. Conscious means here he says the term we are subconscious. That means automatically we are learning it. We are learning it from the environment indirectly. So this is a subconscious process. But whenever we are going to learn a foreign language or second language other than mother language, and we are learning it more formally, most of the time it happens more formally, and that time we are conscious. That is a conscious learning. So if it is a mother language, that doesn't matter that we are conscious or not. Subconsciously it happens whether we know the names or not, but we do use it properly. We can use it properly. Same thing, same sounds, whenever it comes to another language, we need to know a little bit of the mechanisms, how it happens. So when learning our first language, we don't usually think about how we make the sounds we do. We just reproduce what we have heard over the first few years of our life, right? We make the sounds without thinking how our mouth, tongue and teeth are doing. কিছুই চিন্তা করি না আমরা কিভাবে আমাদের অর্গানগুলো কাজ করছে, কিভাবে আমরা সাউন্ড প্রডিউস করছি, হাউ দিস articulators are working, we don't think about that consciously, right? But they are working. Manner of articulation is in second language learning is important because pronunciation doesn't come as naturally as when we're learning our first language. So this is not similar to the mother language, that the mother language sounds, accent, everything, pronunciation comes naturally, but in case of second language we need to learn it, we need to be trained. It's important to know how sounds are made so that you can produce or pronounce sounds correctly and speak more clearly. That is why it is important to know how the what are the right pronunciation, which are the organs related to that, and if we know the mechanisms, then we can correct ourselves, right? So in this section we'll talk about manner of articulation and how we make sounds. Let's move on. Okay. So there are different types of manner of articulation. First of all, some of the sounds, the same consonants. You remember the table? There were 24 consonants, and the left column was place of articulation, and the row, upper row, was related to manner of articulation. 1, 2, 3, 4, there were different names. These are the names. The number 1 is stop or plosive. So same thing, stop or plosive is the same name, two terms for the same sounds. So stop or plosive, we build pressure of air and they release it. For example, we just build the pressure, then we release the pressure pa. First of all, we hold it, then release it. Holding, pa, released, ba, released. Tongue is touching the alveolar ridge, then holding, then release, ta. Similarly, ta, da, ka, these are the sounds which are called stop or plosive. Let's just see the examples. So next we'll practice more and more and we can remember those sounds. Okay, fricatives. Fricative, we stop part of the air, so it can't come through everywhere. So part of the air is blocked. Mainly it is friction type sounds. Just look at the examples. F, that means not fully blocked, partially blocked, and friction is made. F, v, partially air is released and friction sound is coming out. S, z, ha, sh, j, th, the, th. So these are the sounds which are called fricatives. Okay, these are the examples. We'll practice later on. Affricate. This is a combination of stops. That means the first one, we are stopping, holding the air, and releasing like fricatives, like friction. We're holding fully and releasing. So, for example, this sound is, can you remember the symbol? What is this? Okay, you can find it in the IPA chart if you don't remember. Ch, and j, like in jam. Chair, like in chair, jam. So, ch, we are holding but releasing with some friction slowly. So that's why it is called affricate. The combination of stops and fricatives. Two types of combination. So affricate start with the stop and then transitions into a fricative combination. Nasal sounds. Nasal, you know, from the nasal cavity. So the air comes out from the nose. This is called nasal cavity, the way air comes out through the nose. And whenever the air comes out from the mouth, this is called oral cavity. And this is nasal cavity, the way of mouth is called oral cavity. The way when comes out through the nose, then this is cavity. This place, this way, this passage is called nasal cavity. So ma, na, ing or angma sound, these sounds are related to when air passes through the nasal cavity, nasal sounds. So we close our palate and let air stream through the nose. So we understand that these are also common in English, Bangla sounds. liquid, ra, la, ra, la. We let air stream on the sides of our tongue. Air comes with the sides of our tongue, with two sides, ra, la. For example, red, where in the middle of the tongue, was in the middle, and air coming from the both sides of the tongue. That's why these are called liquid sounds. La, ra. These two are liquid sounds. And finally, glide. Wa, ya. We move our mouth constantly from an articulation to a vowel sound. These are quite similar to vowel sounds. So, important thing to remember that though these are consonants, these two have some special names. What is that name? These two are also called semi-vowels. These two are also called semi-vowels. So, examples wa and ya, right? So, initial sound, for example, win, yellow, win with W, this W, that means wa sound. W means in English letter, this is W, but in sound, this is wa sound. And ya sound, like yellow, though you can see that this is like Y, this is actually, it will be like this symbol here for yellow sound, okay? So, this is ya sound, this is wa, this is ya. In IPA, the ya sound is this one, not Y, okay? So, these are called glide. So, by this time, let's go back to the chart. Can we see those things, whichever we have covered here? Okay. So, already you know that the first one was, just to remind you, stop. And these were the examples of stop. So, now you need to look at this row, column wise, right? These are the manners of articulation. That means this chart covers both the place of articulation and manners of articulation. If you know this chart, then you know all the manners and all the places of articulation. So, these are the places we have covered in the last class. Today, we have just discussed the manners of articulation. Stop, or another name was for stop, plosive. So, stop or plosive, fricative, affricate, nasal, liquid, and finally glide. These two, wa and ya, and these two have special names. They are semi-vowels, right? So far, to understand the place of articulation and manner of articulation, we need to understand the mechanism, that means the speech organs, from where they are produced, especially for the place of articulation, and what happens to the organs, how air is blocked, air is released, friction is made or not. These mechanisms are called manners. So, according to the mechanisms, these are called manners of articulation of the same consonants. 24 consonants are divided according to the place, according to the manner. These things are important to have a good pronunciation, to understand the other people, especially native speakers and even non-native speakers, how they are produced and what the sounds they are producing. And whenever you are going to produce the correct sounds, then we need to, if you have the knowledge of these kind of places and manners of articulation, it will be very helpful for us. Even if you are going to teach, if you are a teacher to someone else, then if you are going to teach the pronunciation and specifically the sound related things, then if you have this kind of basic knowledge of how sounds are produced and from where sounds are produced, and why it is bilabial, why it is labiodental, why friction is here, and why blockade, we are just holding the air when these are happening. So, these things will help you to clarify things for others and to be clarified yourself for your pronunciation, for your betterment of use of the language properly, especially we are talking about English. So, we will discuss more on these things and the other things, stress and other things in the next classes. Thank you so much for joining us.